workshop. We are thrilled to be doing this. A group of us from HR, the Grants Management Office, and from Fiscal, the Finance Department, decided that it would be really helpful for all of the mini grantees to receive training on how to manage their awards. And this was brand new last year. We created it from scratch, and I think it really helped all of the folks that managed their grants last year. We had 9 of them, 8 or 9 grantees. It made life so much easier for the administrators that are trying to work with you and for the grantees, so that they knew what to expect, they knew what to do. So first we did want to say congratulations. This is not a done deal. When you apply for a mini grant, it goes through a rigorous review process, as you know, and not everyone who applied was awarded this year. So, and they've been invited to resubmit with the advice from the mini grant panel or the grants management committee. So you should consider this an honor, and it should go on your vita information that indicates that you received grant funding. It is considered internal grant funding. It's a special account that the dean has set up to fund this, and we will have another round in May, so we're hoping to get more mini grantees at that point, more PIs trained. So the word principal investigator is actually a technical word for the leader of any grant project. And that's the word that's used in the field, internally and externally, and we consider you all to be the PIs. And then in terms of Gerald or Melody, who's going to come in later, you are considered as part of the project team. I'm not sure, we don't really have a co-PI situation going within this because it's such a small pool of funds, but they're considered to be project, part of the project team. So this is the agenda, what we're going to cover today, and hopefully in the next, within the next hour. Making sure that you know when you're going to be getting information and what kind of information you're going to be getting. I've provided you with some documentation that we're going to go over, and so the checklist will help you remember who's doing what, who's responsible for what, how you're going to hire and manage your employees, other related expenses, what do you do with outside consultants, cost sharing, and the reporting process. So our objectives, basically we just want you to understand how we manage funds that are related to grant projects. And we'd like for you to understand who does what, so that you know who to contact whenever you're dealing with a specific topic, and to strengthen your inquiry skills so that you know actually what to ask. And what we found is people are the way they are, at least I have, because of what they don't know rather than what they do know. And if you know how to go about getting information, then you're in a much better situation. Okay, and we've given you the handout so that you can take notes as you go along related to... Oh, let's make sure that everybody has the handouts. So there's 2 handouts. There's the PowerPoint, and then there's the reports. So I'm up first because the Grants Management Office has these responsibilities. I will, and my students will generally support the PIs during the grant period for whatever questions you might have. So if for some reason Nadine's not available or Joe's not available for your specific question, please contact me and I will facilitate whatever needs to be done in another way with other people. And I will assist you with the interim report. I'm not sure do we have a separate slide for the interim report later on? Probably not. So why don't we look at that? That's within your packet, the other packet. assist you with the final report if you need it. So the interim report, the purpose of this report is to let us know that you know where you are budget-wise and halfway through your grant period. And there's no deadline here because the form is used every year and we don't want to have a date on there. I will send you the form probably in January so that we can have it back either February or March. I'm not quite sure what halfway would be if we start November 1st. So this informs me that you are working on your project. There have been projects where I assumed the PI was working on their project and they weren't. So they were waiting for something that never came. And so in order to make sure there's no confusion, we have this interim report now, the last 2 years, that tells me, okay, these activities have been completed, these activities are yet to be completed, and I've spent this much money, and you know how much money you've spent, and you know how much is left. So that's really important. The second one is the final report, and if you flip to that one, this will be due next year in probably November 15th, or whatever date that is, in the middle of November, or the third week in November. Enough time for payroll to close out for October so that all the expenses are completed and you know what the end figures are. So you need enough time for PeopleSoft to catch up to all your expenses and for Nadine to finish the whole accounting for your project. And we do want to hear results, and I provide these to the grants committee so they can see kind of what happened as a result. The other thing is that this year in August, or 2012 in August, we would like you to be part of the showcase to be able to talk about your project and inspire others to apply for mini grants. So that's something that we would love for you to participate in. Okay. Next one. So I'm turning this over to Joe now, right? Nope.
You did your checklist then?
Oh, I need to do the checklist.
And you did
So, what?
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's look at the checklist that's further down in our PowerPoint, which we will move to a new place now that we know that I'm up here and we should move checklists to this point. Here it is. This is a good way to see the flow of what has to happen. It's better to look at this the document than looking up here. All of these steps could happen within your project. So if you have OPS and you're going to hire OPS, then the steps for hiring folks are embedded here, and it indicates who's responsible and what office is handling that. If you know, so that includes everything from recruiting to terminating to everything that you have to do. This is just a general way of knowing if you need to do this step, who's in charge of it. So this can give you a sense of, okay, these are all the things that are happening that are invisible to me because the PI isn't involved in all of these. But you should be aware of what we're doing behind the scenes, kind of backstage, to make sure that you're okay, because it's quite a lot of work, and most people don't know that. You will be assigned a number, and is that the next one, Nadine?
No, it's back. It's
Okay.
back to 7.
Is this one, number 7. Nadine's gonna assign you a number, and you're gonna use this number on everything that's fiscally based. Anything that you're doing that has to do with money, you're going to use your number in the subject line, or you're gonna write it on the card, or you're going to use it, so you should know your number when we assign it to you. It's really important. And you're gonna get that soon, probably this week, from Nadine. Thank you. Okay, so now, these are the aspects that fall under human resources and fiscal services. And I'm gonna move to that slide where we're gonna start, which would be this. Voila, okay, now we've got it. Okay, Joe.
All right, so now that you have your mini grants, some of you, maybe all of you, will be hiring temporary workers off of your grant. So you should become familiar with the different types of temporary employment there are at UF. We call it OPS employment. OPS stands for Other Personnel Services. It's synonymous with temporary employment. At the library, we basically have 3 different categories of OPS temporary employment. The first being non-students. If you see anything, either hear people talk about OPS or see it written down somewhere, well, assume OPS refers to non-student hires. The second category is student assistants and STAS. And the third is actually a subcategory of the second, which is the federal work-study student. Federal work-study is the most common of all the student assistants that we have, and I'll give you the reason in a couple slides. But we have over 100 student assistants at the libraries, and I would say we try to go close to 70–80% are federal work study. And there are rules for student assistants and those who are federal work study. They have to be at least half-time. They can only work up to a total of 20 hours per week during the semester. This isn't just with your department. If you know the student has a job elsewhere, IFAS, chemistry, another department, you need to know how many hours that student is working there, and then that you can calculate how many hours your student can work for you. It's combined for at UF, 20 hours total in every department. Students can work during exam week. That question comes up. They can work the normal 20 hours. They just can't work when their exam is scheduled. After finals week is over, they're welcome to work up to 40 hours because classes are no longer in session. And international students, no international students. Federal work study does not apply to international students. They're not available for that. Okay, the OPS paid plan comparison. Now this is going to show you the reason why departments like to hire federal work study students over regular student assistants. And I just point you to the very bottom where it has the total calculation as 20 hours per week for each type, a student assistant, an OPS employee, and a federal work study student. That dollar amount, the $603, that's the amount of money that your department will pay the student. You notice how much smaller the money is, and the reason that federal work study is much cheaper for your departments is because the government pays 3/4 of their wage. Your department, your mini grant, will only pay 1/4 of it. So you can stretch the dollar a lot farther with federal work study students than student assistants and OPS.
So Joe, just so that everyone understands, if you want to extend spend the balance in your budget, and you are able to find a student that qualifies for federal work study, then you will have more student wages available to you to carry out your project. So that's a big consideration, especially if you're not sure if you have enough budgeted for the student that you have in your current budget. In your current budget, Nadine provided you with the cost for the student, and her estimate was based on the student assistant rate, not on the federal work study rate. Okay? Just to be clear that you'll get more mileage if for some reason you can find a work study student. Okay, that's all I wanted to say, just to make sure everybody understood.
So conflict of interest and nepotism. Conflict of interest exists when an academic staff member is in a position to advance his or her own interest or that of others to the university's detriment. Making OPS hires or performing direct supervision of one's family members can be seen as using the university for personal gain. At the libraries, we basically we won't allow you to supervise your own daughter or your own son. This person can work in your department, but someone else will need to be the supervisor. Avoid any potential conflict of interest by disclosing information about a potential conflict ahead of time and asking for assistance to determine whether an action or hire may result in an unintended conflict of interest. So basically, if you're hiring a relative, just let us know. I mean, we won't prevent you from hiring a relative, just there are certain protocol we have to follow. So recruiting employees, any students that you're going to be hiring, or any non-student, any temporary jobs that you're going to be filling, you're going to want to go through me in HR. That's my main job. To create a job description, let's say you know you want to offer a job or post a job, but you don't know how to advertise. What you do is you can go to our human resources website, which is right here, uflib.ufl.edu/PERS. That's our personnel website. Left side, there's a bunch of links. One of them is employment opportunities. If you follow the links and then go to student OPS positions, that's where we have a list of our student current active open jobs that are being offered. And I really recommend that you just use that as a template for how to send me a job description. And to make sure that you get a good batch of applicants, or if you just want to weed out, you want people who are not qualified or not what you're looking for, I really recommend that you put in disqualifying questions. You might not need disqualifying questions, but if you have any, it'd be great. For an example, for a lot of our federal work study positions, the disqualifying question that we put in is, are you federal work study? So when a student, now that would be a student position. So when a student applies, there's a question, yes, no, no response, I think are the options. If they put no response or they put no to being federal work study, that will kick out their application and you'll never see it. That helps weed down all the applicants. Some positions, there are going to be 80 people applying, and you don't really want to look through them. I have people calling me up telling me to take it down because they have too many. So disqualifying questions helps you avoid that. Oh, you go ahead and email the exact job description to me, that's my email address, and I will contact the supervisor when the job has been posted. What I do is, once the job has been posted in Gator Jobs, it means it's live, everyone can see it, I will send you an email that has the link to the online posting. There will be a username, a password, so you can go in, and then you can see who's applied. And then you can, if you want, you can remove people who are not, we'll give you the option of removing applicants that aren't qualified, or if you know there's one you definitely want to interview, you can change their, the setting to being interviewed, for example. PIs and supervisors are encouraged to attend training provided by UF Training and Developments. That's not HR training, that's main HR training, I believe? Okay.
For interviewing.
For interview, okay. Oh. I left it on my desk. I have blue cards on my desk I was
Okay,
gonna
got
hand
it.
out. Okay. When you decide on who to hire, you're gonna need to send the student or the OPS non-student to HR with the following documentation. Original social security card, I would say is the most important because that's the one that's forgotten the most and most difficult to get if they don't have it, because a lot of times with students, they're from Miami and they're here and their card's there, and so their parents have to send it to them. So that can delay hiring. And it can't be, some of them try to bring in a photocopy of social security card, a photocopy of the original photo ID. And it's not acceptable because we have to look at the original. Now, a way around that, an exception to the photocopy, is they can have the copy notarized, and that is okay. If it's notarized, stamped, we'll accept the photocopy. The completed blue card, which Bess,
I just
Oh, you
passed
did?
them out.
okay, good. Just pass out to you. That's something that I need for every hire, every termination, every pay increase, every change in payroll distribution. For example, you're paying them off of your mini grant now, but in 3 months you might want to pay them off state funds for whatever reason. We need a blue card for that. And DLC is all familiar with that, I'm sure.
We have a whole stack of blue cards.
Yes.
We know all about the blue card
If you
dance.
can't find me about what to do with blue cards, you can contact Gordon.
Randall,
Or
you can find
Randall.
Randall's in charge of
or
the blue cards for
Randall.
the DLC.
They are probably as much as an expert on this as I am at this point. But on the blue card, there's a section that's asks you whether it's grant funded or not grant funded. Check grant funded, and then put in the mini grant number next to it. Or someone has it, so I can't look at it, but it's there. Students need to bring in, or anyone, any employees, need to bring in voided check, bank letter. It's for the direct deposit. If you happen to know that they are already working with IFAS or working in another department, either they currently have a job or they had one 3 months ago, and know that their account hasn't changed, you don't need the direct deposit information. But to be safe, have them bring it in. Because students don't always have voided checks. I think those are getting phased out apparently. Bank letter will work just fine. Just has to have the bank name, the account holder's name, the routing number, the account number. And the letter just has to say, this person has a bank account with us. But a work study permit, if applicable, they can just print it out. It's not going to prevent you from getting hired, but we do need it on file. So they just need to print it out. And if they're not for a work study, then they're not going to have one. And lastly, international paperwork. This requires more paperwork than the typical hire, and because of that, there's a time frame issue. Students, it's possible, for OPS, we can get them hired and working the same day they fill out the paperwork. If everything's done correctly, there's a chance they can work the same day if necessary. International students, not a chance. Assume a 2-week delay for international students, and that's because there's a lot more approval steps. I have to send paperwork to tax services, and then I have to wait for them to send it back to me, and I have to send it back to them, and then eventually it gets approved. And that's it. So the payroll blue card, like I said that already, put in your mini grant number. At the top, near the top, department, put in your department name, your DLC, the DLC. Cattle item for cattle item. Department ID, please put in the department number you want the hire to be underneath. That's an 8-digit number, so you should become familiar with that. Because I actually use that number to hire people. I don't use the name. The name doesn't help me necessarily. Effective date is the desired date. Like I said, I might be able to get people hired the day they fill out paperwork, but it's not a guarantee. I'm going to tell you when the person can work. So don't let this person work before they come in and fill out paperwork. Don't tell them they can work the day they come and fill out the paperwork. I'll let you know, and I'll let them know when it's okay for them to start. And I'll do that by sending a Grover confirmation. What happens is once the hire went through, I'll send a Grover confirmation saying, so-and-so starting with DLC. Then IT will add supervisor, which will be one of you, to the Grover, and then they'll ask you for permissions. And when you get that Grover, you'll know they can start working. And I think this is where I stop.
No,
No?
you do this.
I do? All right. Initial meeting with OPS employee after hire. This is where OPS employees meet with their supervisors and they discuss the workspace, expectations of the job, and how to do time and labor entry. And I'm doing this too, I guess. Okay, now I understand. Time and labor entry, once everyone's hired, supervisors, you'll now be responsible for time approval. And to do that, you'll want to go to Manager Self-Service, and then click on Time Management Home, and you'll have a list of links.
In my UFL.
In my UFL. I think most of you are familiar with that by now, right? This is where you go to enter your own time, but now you're approving time. So you go to Payable Time Detail. You can look to see at what stage the pay for any particular day you want to look for is at. In this case, this is showing that after you have approved the time for that day. After the person's been paid, it can say advance to payroll or paid. Time should be entered daily by OPS employee. Time entered must obviously match actual time worked. And the pay week begins Friday and ends Thursday. Any time worked over 40 hours in a pay week is overtime, and we will be paid 1.5 times the normal rate. All overtime will need prior approval from Grace, who works in business services. All time must be approved by PI by the payroll deadline. Please pay special attention to the email sent out by Fiscal Services about early deadlines and keep employees informed. For more information, visit the Helpful Payroll links page on the library HR website.
want to make sure your student knows how to enter their time as an employee, and then making sure that you approve it in time so that they can be paid within the payroll period. So those two things have to happen, and I'm sure that people in your own departments actually, who have had lots of students, would be, very happy to help you learn how to do that, just to make sure the student knows what they're supposed to be doing every day, and that you know what you're supposed to be doing on a weekly and bi-weekly basis, or if you're going to approve them daily, so that you can make sure that you know that they work that many hours. And we're open to questions if anybody has questions.
Anybody have a question?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
We already have somebody in mind that we're interested in hiring. Is it a requirement that we post the job description and
Is it OPS?
go through the?
Is it OPS? Is it temporary? You do not need to, okay, it's a good question. For OPS positions, student positions, OPS positions, you do not have to post the job if you have someone in mind already. That's only required for benefited positions. So if you know there's somebody you want to hire, just go ahead and send them in.
Okay, good. Second question. Gerald is going to be actually supervising this student and working with her on a daily basis. It would therefore be more efficient if he could approve her hours. Yes. Is that doable?
Yeah.
Because it said the PI.
Oh.
Yeah.
On the, sorry to
Go ahead.
on the blue card it says who's the supervisor, and then essentially that should be the person to approve the time.
Okay.
Yeah, Gerald's gonna be approving time.
Yeah.
He should sign the card at the bottom.
Yeah.
That will make sure that you are the one who approves time.
Okay, good, thank you.
Oh, there's the,
Oh, there's time management home. Okay, so under time management home, so your student has, or your OPS worker has entered in time that needs to be approved. It takes overnight for time to show up, so if the person enters the time today, you won't be able to see it for approval until tomorrow. So everything in UF essentially takes 24 hours. And to approve the time, go to time management home under manager self-service, and go down to approve payable time. And from there, you can look up students, or I'll just call them OPS. You can look up OPS by their UFID number, or you can look up by the group ID number if you create one. Or if you click Get All Employees, I believe you'll see everyone who's supposed to be underneath you. And if you check that use criteria for future search, that will save the way you search, so you don't have to keep searching every time. It'll come up automatically when you look.
where is that? I'm sorry.
You check this box right here. If you print this UFID number and you leave this blank, don't check it. If you exit, go back, all this will be blank again. But if you check it, this will still be here. Let's come back to it. And to approve the hours, once you check it over, you see that the hour's correct, for the day that's correct. Just check the box, approve, and click the approve button, and the hours will be approved. And it'll disappear. Just to let you know, this person's federal work study. If this person was just a student assistant, it would say student assistant, just to let you know. And actually, I encourage you, this is sort of the one, here's my one warning about what you're gonna be watching. Are you gonna be watching your own budgets? Okay. Here's just my one tip for you. It's very important that you pay attention to who's federal work study and who's actually not federal work study, because for not federal work study, you're paying 100% of their wage. For federal work study, 25%. If you find out after 3 months that a federal work study student is getting paid as a student assistant, that means a lot of your budget's gone. It is possible to correct it, it's just difficult. So just to keep, I suggest you really keep an eye on the status of, of each student. Pay attention to see if they're showing up as federal work study, as student assistant. At the beginning, middle, towards the end of the semester, I send out a list of federal work study students to all the departments, and I say, these are all the people who are federal work study students. Is there anyone missing from your departments? And then you say, oh yes, this person who's been working for us for a month should be federal work study, he's not on there. And then that means I go in and I fix it. And then we're pretty good about getting paid retro back. We can get paid retro back so that it's corrected, but we don't want to go 3 months, 4 months back. That's really more difficult. Payroll doesn't like to do that.
Or crossing fiscal years.
Or especially, yes, if we're nearing the end of the fiscal year, definitely pay attention, because it could be impossible to do it. Just a warning. And for terminated employees, blue cards. Let's go ahead and check the termination box. Submit it to me, and the end date, which I think is the effective date. Where it says effective date number 2, that should be the day after the last day they worked. So if they worked, today was their last day, and you put the termination date as today, I submit it, they will not get paid for the last day they worked. It will cut them off. So the day after.
So we need to change that. We need to change that. 'Cause
No,
it
it's
says
right.
End date should be the day. Oh, the day after. Okay, sorry.
Submit it.
So this is the end of
Yes.
yours. Way to go, Joe. Thank you.
Oh, it's the arrow. It's the right arrow.
I would just like to say one more thing before we go on to other operating expenses as far as OBS. If you are getting reports from me every 2 weeks saying that this person is getting paid from your mini grant, and they were supposed to be terminated 4 months ago, you need to tell somebody because, and that actually happened this last cycle. So I don't send out reports just to send out reports. They're to look at, and if there's something not right, then you need to tell me or Joe so we can fix it as quickly as possible. Okay, so for other operating expenses, you will need to, it's considered a special order, and so you need to submit a Grover ticket through the Grover ticket system. Does everyone know about that? Okay, cool. If you have any questions about it, Sonia will be your contact person. she'll get the Grover ticket, and if she needs extra information, she'll contact you through the Grover system of what she needs. Whether it's a new vendor, or W-9 form, or consultation, paperwork. If you're hiring a contractor, it's important that you let them know that it's not a service between you and them. Meaning, you're not gonna hire them as like an OPS person. They're actually providing you a service. They can't be an employee and a contractor at the same time in the same year.
I have to ask a question, because I saw that second sentence, I was like, because we've already, and maybe this is different, but as a consultant, CAPES, which is a office on campus that is headed up by a faculty member and staffed by students, we've already kind of made arrangements to have them do services
Yeah,
for us. So is that
that's
something-
different.
That is different?
It is different.
Okay.
Because they're actually an auxiliary, and so they,
Oh, okay, so they're not,
yeah, they'll hire their OPS people. We'll just do a purchase order for them.
okay, okay.
It's Lourdes that has the consultants.
You know the DLC, we like to add new payroll if you guys.
So we'll be working with
I'm calling you.
Sonia mostly.
Before the start date, please.
Yeah, before the start.
I'm just waiting for my mini grant fund number.
Great.
And family members cannot be hired as consultants. So what you were talking about, they're actually sort of like a hired outside consultant. So there'll be a purchase order created for that. They'll, for an outside consultant, it depends on, they've changed the rules a little bit. Sometimes they can get away with just a consulting professional worksheet, but most of the time, they need a vendor application and a W-9 form, which I can send to you, or Sonia can send to you, but she'll let you
So
know.
you have to have all that, I mean, is that all stuff that we have to have, that they have to do?
You don't need that.
We don't need
Yeah.
to, okay,
You
just,
won't
Totally
purchase it.
different with an internal
okay, all right,
UF type vendor and an outside type vendor.
okay, all right.
Right, so Lourdes will probably need that.
And that's the first thing I check, is to see if the vendor's in the file, and if not, we go ahead and get them, we can't cut them a check unless they're in UF's vendor file.
And a statement with the beginning and end dates of work, the terms of payment, and a description of the work being performed. When it's an outside consultant, and they're preparing their own invoice, because a lot of times they're an independent type business. All of those things are gonna need to be on the invoice that they send to us as well.
And if they don't send an invoice, they don't get paid.
That's right. Cost share, you all had to include cost share, on your budgets. There's a cost share form, and I think it's with
It's
all
in
of
the
the
packet.
and,
It's the
you'll
second.
need to fill that out each semester. I'll send you an email notification, when those come due, when they need to be completed, and they can either be mailed to me, brought to me, or emailed to me. Here's another example of it. The reports, I I'm required to send you a report every month, but if you have OPS workers, I'll probably send you a report every 2 weeks. It'll help to keep you on track of your budget. If you provide me with the approximate time that they'll be working each week, I can do a projection out for you, which will help you also to keep you on track. Otherwise, I'll just use the standard 20 hours, and that'll inflate if they're not working that many hours. If they're working for another department or even in your area, it's your responsibility to monitor their funds, not mine. So this is a sample of the type of report that you're gonna get. This is the summary page, which is pretty self-explanatory, I think. And then there's different tabs down the bottom. So that'll be the first page, and then this will be the second, which is just a detail of the biweekly for each of the people that you have working for you. And then this would be the projection page, which if you tell me how many hours they're working, it'll help to keep it accurate. And then the final page would be the expense detail. And all of these pages are linked to the front page, so if you just want a quick overview of how you're doing, that's the page you want to look at. And that's it. If you have any questions, there's all of our numbers.
And if you need any assistance interpreting the first report that you get, about your expenses, you can just call me and I can walk you through it, or Nadine would be happy to do that, whoever's available. What the goal is really to make sure you don't run out of money and you're not done with your project. I mean, we want you to have enough money to do your project. And if you can get a work-study student, then you will have plenty of money to finish your project. You might be able to hire 2 students instead of the 1 student that you were going to hire. And that would be fine within your budget. The other thing that we wanted to talk about, and I'll just do a little bit more, is let's say you get to the end, or 2 months before the end, and you have more work to be done, and you have enough money to do the work, but you don't have enough time. So you had trouble hiring, meaning you hired people that then had to quit for whatever reason, and then you had to hire new people. If there's delays in the workflow because of people or because of other reasons, then you might need an extension. And which means you might need a no-cost extension, meaning you don't need additional money, you just need more time. Because we're pretty firm that this is a 1-year agreed upon grant period within the mini grants. So we want you to finish in 1 year. But I have 2 projects. I have projects last year that didn't finish, and I have projects this year that didn't finish, because of a variety of situations that nobody could predict. So if you end up in these situations, let me know so that we can coach you to the finish line. If you need more time, we ask that you document the request to the grants committee. I will help you with the request. Kind of, what did you do so far? What's left to do? Why do you need an extension? Etc. And the grants committee will either grant it to you or they will deny you. Meaning, you had, for whatever reason, they didn't feel that it was a compelling argument enough to allow you to continue, and your project will be penalized because it wasn't done in the amount of time that you were allocated. So the more communication, the better. We can help you with any of, understanding any of this. It is more complicated when you are dealing with people that you've hired, either contracts that you've hired, and if they have delays, so it could be that students turn over at CAPES at the College of Ed, and Dr. Miller doesn't have the time to do your assessment in time, which pushes you back, so we've had problems both with contractors, we've had problems with students turnover, and that has delayed the grants, the mini grants from being completed in the grant period. So that was the last thing I wanted to say. And does anybody have any questions about anything? And we hope that this, yes, Rebecca.
What sort of options are available if you have money left over?
If you have money left over and there's a part of the project that you would like to do that was not included in your proposal. For instance, you would like to do a training. You finished your project, you have a product, and you would like to do a training in South Florida so that at another academic institution, or not at a conference, but for other folks to learn from what you're doing. It can't be conference related because we have money for travel for that and you apply for that. Those funds cannot, these mini grant funds cannot be used for conference travel. But if you wanted to do a training at a different location, or if you wanted to do extra assessment work or usability studies and you needed more a student to help you with that, or if you were going to do some research component that was part of your project but you didn't articulate it in the original proposal, you contact me. You tell me what your request is, how much you want to spend, when it will be done, when you will finish spending the money, and I will pass that on to the Grants Management Committee as a change in your budget, and we will discuss it and determine whether that is sufficient grounds to grant you that permission. So the more we hear from you about your needs, the more we can have a conversation about how we can adjust this. And this is the case with all grants, meaning all post-award grant programs will allow you to change from one line item to another line item. They will allow you to have a no-cost extension. We're trying to simulate the external grant experience internally. And which means when you talk to me, you're kind of talking to the program officer that we would request a no-cost extension from, or that we would request a change in the budget, and I do all of that with the PI. So we do this as a partnership with the granting agency. So this is good practice for managing any project. So you should know that you have projected in the best way that you can a budget and a work plan. But life happens and things change, and this is a living experience. It's going to change. People change. Situations change. So we want to accommodate those changes. But if we don't know that these changes have occurred, and all of the nightmares that you can imagine have happened to Nadine and I and Sonia and everybody mostly not in the HR office, but mostly on the side of fiscal. And it keeps us up at night. And there are things that could have been completely avoided if there had been communication. So I think that's the point of doing this pre-workshop. So we don't want to have any of the nightmares occur in the internal grant funding or the external grant funding. Any other questions? Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And we'll put this up so Mary can see it and other people